Good morning, everybody. Well, I guess we ruffled some feathers at YouTube because I got that email from YouTube telling me that my comments were flagged. Now, as a lot of you know, I try to interact with you guys as much as possible. You know, this YouTube thing is really a full-time thing. You know, like I spend most of my waking hours either checking comments, checking all the different social media platforms that we're on, and trying to reply to people that I feel are sincerely looking for the truth. You know, it's part of it. You can't just have a YouTube channel and not interact with your subscribers. So you guys will see from time to time, you may be the one being responded to. And sometimes my answers are short. Other times I go into more detail if I think that, it'll help you in addition to a lot more people to get to the bottom of things and understand things better. Because look, I know it's confusing. We're basically operating at half staff here on YouTube and trying to get around the algos and speaking in code and all this stuff. So I do quite a bit of responding to people in the comment sections and on other channels and other comment sections. And I look back, there's like this function on YouTube where you can actually look back and see, what comments that you posted. And I looked back for, 6 months, and I couldn't find one single comment that someone would flag as an inappropriate comment. Now, I did get a little descriptive in some of our most recent videos about Toy Story because it's obvious what is being depicted. And so, you got to be careful is my point in how you type things and what you say. Just use code language, just because now the algorithms have expanded into the comments section and you could literally lose your account and nobody will know where to find you. Now you can make a new account, but some of you have developed communities and friends and subscribers, even if it's only a few hundred subscribers. And so to lose that and lose your identity here on YouTube could be a big deal for a lot of us. So just know that they're out there and they're basically going through with the algos, trying to find people who are saying things that are against the narrative, against what they say is the truth. And this even extends to, maybe a different viewpoint of how history happened. They don't like that kind of stuff because they know that it catches fire and that once people open their eyes, they begin to lose control. So that's where things stand. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the community tab and you'll see the screenshot that I posted of the email that I got, basically asking me if I needed some kind of psychological help. Did I want to talk to somebody about my comments, and then several of you posted that you had also received these emails from YouTube and shortly before your site was terminated. So this is kind of a big deal. Like they can now look at your comments and decide whether or not you should have an account here on YouTube. So just be careful. And now a lot of you are already doing that using code words. And I encourage the rest of you that have something very important to say just to use code language. Now, that serves a couple of purposes. The other thing it does is it won't get your comment flagged or put into my questionable comments section, which I have to go through and approve manually. So every day, part of what I do here, part of my job is to go on to my comments that got stuck in the filter, and I have to go approve hundreds of comments, hundreds every single day that get stuck in the back door of YouTube. So these are things we can do as we move forward. We can navigate this landscape. We can do it effectively. We just got to be careful what we do. So I'm glad you guys are all here. And I want to start out today's Between the Headlines show with this collage that I put together. Now, I made this in a program. It wasn't very hard to do. I mean, it took some research. I basically looked at all the Pokemon stickers, at least the first 20. I think there's 20 of them here. And I got pictures of them, and then I framed them and put them together in this collage so that you could see all the Pokemon stickers across the world for all the different countries, or at least the major countries. There's probably 5 or 10 that I did not include in here They were at the end of the list. But what kind of observations can we make looking at all these Pokemon stickers? Well, first thing I noticed were there's lots of reds and blues. In fact, the majority of the main Pokemon stickers are red and blue. And in fact, red and blue makes purple, doesn't it? So I see a lot of purple too. There's one, two, let's see, there's two purple, which red and blue make purple. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 blue, a couple reds. There's a few greens and oranges scattered in here. But if you had to name the one color that's missing from this image, what would it be? Let's see who guesses it first. Which color is missing of all the colors? Then we're going to talk about what that might mean. Let's see who gets it first. Which color is missing? All right. Al Gore. Let's see who gets it. Which color is missing, you guys? Yellow. Debbie, you're the winner. All right, so thanks, Debbie. So yes, yellow is missing. Now, what could that mean? Why is yellow the color that's missing? Well, I have my own theories about this. Yellow is the counterfeit Jesus. It's the silent spirit behind all these stickers, and that's why it's not shown here. It's Apollyon, Abaddon. Now, if you look, this one here, there's one that has a little sliver of yellow, and look at it's crowning the serpent here. And you see the phoenix here as well in these in this particular brand of whoa, what does that say? So that says no, and then there's a person there with a belly, almost as if they're pregnant. Interesting. So that's the only yellow that I see on this entire spread here. So my theory is that that's about Abaddon, Apollyon. He's the one on the white horse that has come with the crown and the ribbon. All right. So that's what I wanted to share with you to open up today's show. Now let's get into some of these headlines today. I've got quite a few, and there's been some new developments here. Looks like DeSantis is pouring the gasoline on the fire. He's talking about his own state-run militia. Now, on its face, I think that's probably a good idea, and I don't, unless there's something else to this, and that's completely possible as well. But this is fully constitutional. You know, states should never ever let the federal government walk all over them, which is exactly what Bo Jiven's been trying to do with this whole mandate thing. And the problem here is that the feds always have their hands in the middle of the National Guard. It's always been a thing. They basically pay the National Guard, even though they're supposed to be at the service of the states. And so what this does is it skews the powers over to the federal side. Now, this was probably done on purpose way long time ago so that states couldn't, use the National Guard to, for instance, gain their independence. Okay. That would be something the federal government would not want. So DeSantis is going to establish his own militia. Let's read about this. See what's going on in Florida. He introduced a budget proposal on Thursday that includes a plan to establish a militia that would answer solely to him. Unlike the Flono Guard of Florida, the Guard wouldn't receive federal funding or embark on federal missions. He wants to use $3.5 million of the $100 million budget proposal to fund the state guard. He said will not be encumbered to the federal government. The Guard, made up of 200 volunteers, would support Florida Nat Guard during state emergencies, the proposal said, and it will enable civilians to be trained in the best emergency response techniques. So this is interesting development. Now, there's a lot of grumblings about Florida possibly seceding from the Union. Look, you guys, I've heard those rumors going back at least the 10 years I've been here on YouTube. It's always brought up and talked about. Will it ever happen? I would say that in instances like Florida, I would say that there's a good possibility that could happen. I've never seen a governor defy the federal the president in this way before in my recent history. I mean, I could be wrong, but DeSantis is really stepping out here, or appears to be stepping out. Now, I know that he dropped some legislation a couple years ago saying that they can force people to get a sticker under certain circumstances. And I don't know what that means. I mean, that concerns me. It does concern me. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on this guy. Okay. A lot of people, though, that are freedom loving are liking what he's doing. And for our next story, please, 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 I've asked you guys this many times. Do not fall for the fake sticker card honey trap. This is the Washington Post. Now, I truly believe this is some kind of operation to lure in detractors and to take them out of the game. Why do I say that? Well, this guy was bragging he's going to be rich off of these fake Vidco Pokemon sticker cards. And then he got charged, so they caught him. I believe there's something in these cards, and they're being handed out by certain people where they can track them down and figure out who's distributing them, who's using them. I don't know what it is. Could be some kind of technology, but I believe this whole thing is a setup. And how do you get taken off the board? Well, first of all, once you get your hands on one of these cards, they somehow infiltrate your surrounding community, people that are like-minded like you, who are opposed to everything that's happening. So then that puts the spotlight on everyone surrounded by this and everyone who gets one of these cards in their hand. Not good. And then what they do, they prosecute you quickly too. They take you off the board, and once they've got their hands on you, that's when you begin to lose all your rights to defy any mandate. And that's what this game is all about, I believe. I don't have any proof of that, but look, this is this kind of stuff they do all the time. This is what they did with the whole anti-teeterist program. They would set up these honey traps. They would be very creative in the way that they would figure out how to lure these people in. Okay, people that weren't even doing anything wrong at first. They would offer them money. They would offer them a whole plan of how to carry out everything. And as soon as they said yes and put a button in their hand, boom, they jumped on top of them, became news headlines, and hey, where our jobs are now justified. Okay, so don't put this past these people. Of course, they would come up with honey traps to lure people in who don't want to go along with the mandates. So then you go to jail. They can poke you with anything they want. At that point, you're at the mercy of the government. Now, as it stands now, according to what I've read, Pokemon stickers are not mandatory for inmates. But in Ohio, there are some judges that are making stickers a requirement of probation. Wow. It says get a Vidco Pokemon sticker or face prison. Judges order in probation cases. 2 judges in Ohio have made getting the Pokemon sticker a condition of probation. So they basically, you don't want to get nabbed by these people. You want to, ride on the straight and narrow until it gets to the point where, you have to actually make a hard decision about what you're going to do. Okay. But don't try to skirt around it using illegal ways to do it, because they will find you. And then you're no good to anyone else because you're in jail, right? See what this is, this crazy story. Now, understand that stories like this might not even be real. They might just be out there to, scare you. Let's see here. 20-year-old Maryland man has been charged with purchasing and distributing fake Vidco cards to enrich himself, according to a criminal complaint. Now, I do know that there were church leaders and stuff running around charging people to do like a religious exemption letter and stuff like that. You guys, that is just disgusting. That is just disgusting. Now, someone had asked me to provide something like that. Of course, I would never charge for something like that. But I explained to the person, I said, look, anything I write isn't going to do you any good, because according to them, I'm not an official religion. And so now you see the problem. Now you see the problem. The religions were set up so they could be bought and sold because they're under threat of the 501c3 tax exemption. If they speak out against anything that's lawful, they can lose their tax exempt status. So of course they're not going to put it on their official belief system that they do not believe that someone should or should not be able to get or should not have a Pokemon sticker, right? So this creates a catch-22, doesn't it? Because the religions aren't putting it in their official theology that they're opposed to this, and therefore when you go to get an exemption, it fails because they say, show us anywhere in that doctrine where you're opposed to this. Do you see the problem here? That's why we should have never accepted the definition of what a religion is under their definition. A religion could simply be, 5 people in a room. But under their definition, you have to have a place of worship. You have to have some kind of material, reading material. And there's a long list of other things that are required for you to be officially recognized as a religion. Now you see the problem. So this is, of course, Babylon the Great. This is the empire of false religion. It's all fake. Okay, you don't need to go to a building and have literature and, and all these definitions that they put on you for what a religion is to be a religion. And it's given true religion a bad name. Because what's the first thing that atheists will say? Oh, look at all the things done in the name of religion that are evil. Well, that ain't my religion. And that's exactly what you say. I'm not part of that. That's them. That's what they do. That's not on me. I believe in the Bible. I believe in Christ. Not a building, not memberships, not tax exemption, not all the other things that come along with it. And in this particular instance, the quote-unquote big box religions have let Christianity down, haven't they? They failed us because they won't come out and write these exemptions. Now, of course, there's independent pastors out there doing this. What I'd like to know is how many of those pastors who, some are charging for these letters for religious exemption, but how many of them are getting now harassed by the IRS and being threatened and told, hey, you just wrote an exemption letter and that's not anywhere in your doctrine and you're speaking out against things that are lawful and mandates of the United States. So we can revoke your tax exempt status. I'd really like to know how often that's happening. And therein lies the problem. This whole house of cards we have set up that impugns the people at the bottom, all of us. And it's all based on money. People's fear of losing their ability to support themselves and their families and playing along with the rules based on money. And that enrages God because that's money in the temple, mixing money with the spirituality when that happens. And he doesn't like that. So, interesting nonetheless. This guy says, I sell proof of Pokemon sticker cards. He commented under Instagram posts. I mean, who does that? Oh, I'm engaging in activity that's illegal. No one's going to do that. This could be fake. The private messages on the app, prosecutors allege he told another individual, I'm going to be rich. Instead of wealth, Shabazz is now facing 20 years behind bars on charges of mail fraud and obstruction of justice. Prosecutors accuse him of purchasing 600 fake Vidco cards, advertising them on several social media platforms and distributing them through the U.S. mail. See, they get you one way or the other. In this case, mail fraud, right? The criminal complaint includes examples of what the government says is Shabazz selling the cards at various price tags. $60, $70, $75 a pop. Previously convicted on charges of possession of cheese pizza. He was released from prison in April. So beware, beware. Do not get wrapped up in this or you're going to go down with these people. What else do we have here? Well, even though all of the European scientific community recognizes natural immunity as a means to obtain a pass, an immunity pass, American science says something much different. American science says that prior infection offers little protection against VidCo. Wait, I thought that science was indisputable and they all spoke with one voice. Especially when it comes to an entire continent of Europe saying something different than the entire continent of America. Let's read this. A past VidCo infection appears to give little mooning of the city to the new variant Omicron, rippling across the globe. Potentially tearing away one layer of defense that humanity has won slowly at an immense cost. The battle rages on. Just a week after this existence was revealed to the world, the heavily mutated variant, which scientists fear could be the most contagious one yet, is already by far the dominant form in South Africa. So, more programming, of course. And your God-given mooning of the city is irrelevant. Has no bearing on your health. Wow, I wonder how people got by for the last 6,000 years. And off in Vienna, our next story, 40,000 people were marching against the lockdown. Now, these lockdowns target the unstickered people. And this is why people are so upset about this. Faced with surging daily infections, the government last month made Austria the first country in Western Europe to reimpose a lockdown and said it would make Pokemon stickers mandatory from February. People carried signs. Now, this was what bothers me, okay? I understand the my body, my choice, but this whole thing, okay, this is part of the programming. Once you sign up for the right and left, you're already shooting yourself in the foot. Why do I say that? Well, the very person who ran with the slogan that you see highlighted on your screen was the one who basically invented the Pokemon stickers through warp speed. So do you see the hypocrisy here? He began the ball rolling and was the key that was put into the lock and turned and that changed the world forever. Wow. So, unfortunately, these people are already off to the wrong start in these protests. The message should be tyranny, red and blue tyranny, red, blue tyranny. That should be the message here. Or a new party should be the message here, which I don't even think a party would fix the problem, but you get what I'm saying. Government has failed us. Around 1,200 police officers deployed to handle the scattered protests were supposed to merge into a march on the Ring Boulevard in central Vienna. They used pepper spray against some of the protesters who aimed fireworks at police and detained some marchers, police said. And they can never stop with the fear, can they? The next spamdemic may be worse. Well, of course it could. Right? I could turn white tomorrow. But will I? Probably not. Because I was born a different color. But anything may happen. Look at how they frame these titles. Scientist behind the UK Pokemon sticker says next spamdemic may be worse. Well, anything may happen. The sun could turn off tomorrow. One of the scientists behind the Oxford asteroid Seneca Pokemon sticker is warning that the next spamdemic may be more contagious and more lethal. Less more money. Notice more. This is what they want. More is devoted to research and preparations to fight this. Wow. So, whatever. Fear programming there. Oh. But don't worry. It's a rare heart condition. It's mild and resolves quickly. Let's read this one. The Telegraph. Rare heart conditions triggered by Vidco Pokemon sticker is mild and resolves quickly. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry that your chest feels like it's going to pop open. Unbelievable. Myocarditis is a condition characterized by inflamed cardiac muscle and can weaken the flow of the blood around the body. Most common cause, and in those cases, it can be serious and even fatal. Data shows that the Vidco Pokemon sticker increases the risk of a person developing this, with the risk highest in young boys after the second dose. Wow. So, they're admitting it now. They're saying it's extremely rare and it's nothing to worry about because it resolves itself. So I guess they've done studies to show that this has resolved itself and to show that it's extremely rare. Weird. This was what we were told was almost the perfect silver bullet. We were told that nothing was wrong with these Pokemon stickers and that everyone should go get them. They're completely safe, nothing to care about. And now a different type of picture emerges. Because when you add up all the quote-unquote rare things that they've listed that are happening, then all together in sum total, it doesn't seem to sound so rare, does it? So, what else do we have here? Now, I saved the best story for last, so stay tuned because China is saying they found a cube on the moon. That'll be our last story today. But before we get into that, we need to talk about the troops again. Okay? Looks like the troops who refuse a Pokemon sticker are now going to lose some of the most important benefits that a lot of these guys are men and women. This is why they signed up. Believe it or not, there are people in this world that don't have a lot else going on in their life, and maybe they thought, man, I can get a college education and get some benefits if I just go and serve for 3 or 4 years. And so now they're doing a whole entire reversal here. And this article tries to skip right over that fact. It mentions it. It mentions general discharge, which means that they're still entitled to some of their benefits, which they call the veterans benefits. But what they in fact lose is their GI Bill benefits. Now, they don't talk about what those GI Bill benefits are. So I wanted to look, and that is your college education and your dependents' college. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, some of you are in the military or know people that are in the military, but apparently they pay. Do they pay for all of your college and all of your dependents' college? That's a pretty huge benefit to lose, isn't it? Just for not getting a Pokemon sticker. Now, these are people that trusted their government, trusted that they would do right by them, right? And they trusted their government to only use war as a last resort, not to just enrich companies, the industrial complex. And they never thought that they would be put in a position that would encroach on their personal freedoms. You know, a lot of these guys have become the targets of, the red flag laws that Thump got behind. Come back from these places and, someone calls the cops on them because they had a moment. Next thing you know, they get a knock on the door and they get all their stuff confiscated, all their pop sticks. Now, we go back to this article here and they talk about how this whole refusal to get the Pokemon stickers has been a really hush-hush issue. It says here, the military branches have been hesitant to issue complete numbers of troops who have refused to take the Pokemon sticker. And they have all these excuses as to why they won't tell us how many don't want it. But it does say here that to date, none of the 3 services has approved a single religious wager. Wow. Now this is bothersome because many thousands of troops have submitted religious waivers, and none have been approved. Welcome to freedom. Now, you know my thoughts on this and why they're taking such a hard line on these service members. I believe this is an orchestrated military scale down in plain sight. They don't need these people anymore. Disposable heroes. So, what do? You make life miserable for them so that they quit. Or you challenge their belief system so they quit. It's like when an employer doesn't want to lay you off because then they have to pay out unemployment benefits. So they try to get you to quit. So what do? They start gaslighting you and mistreating you. And if you don't think that happens in America, just go into the chat right now. I'm sure there's many of you that have had that experience. I know that I have. All of a sudden, you start getting bad reviews for no reason. You're doing the exact same thing, but all of a sudden, you start getting bad coaching reports, bad reviews. Your manager starts trying to catch you in lies, starts messing with your head, all of these things, and they're trying to get you to quit so they don't have to pay unemployment. And make no mistake, you think you wouldn't put this past the government to do this, to not have to pay out millions of dollars in free education to these guys who signed up to get the free education? I mean, talk about dangling the carrot. Talk about dangling the carrot. Now, some of you follow our next story. This is the Scott Peterson case. Remember the guy who took out his pregnant wife? Or this is what they're alleging happened? Well, he just got off of death row. And he may even get a new trial. Now, could this happen? Well, welcome to the American justice system, right? They're saying that it was improper jury selection and that one of the jurors was a pregnant woman who was abused by a man. And they're saying that skewed that juror's, viewpoint on everything because the juror did not disclose that up front. Wow. Now, even though I believe that Scott Peterson claims innocence about all this, I believe he does. But even though he claims innocence, he does admit he was fishing on the day his wife disappeared, very close to where her body was found. And they know that looking at his internet that he had researched ocean currents and bought a boat without telling anyone. Now, that's kind of weak evidence to me, other than the fact he was fishing in the same exact spot she was found. But, I mean, could this be some kind of elaborate frame job by some kind of satanic cult who maybe followed him and dumped the bodies where they knew he'd be fishing, combined with very poor taste in grieving? Because I guess that the weeks after she disappeared, before they even found her, he had sold her car, he had looked into selling their house, and he had turned the baby's nursery into a storage room. Now, maybe he had legal bills. Maybe he knew she wasn't coming home. Who knows? But this is crazy. I mean, nobody ever thought this guy would get off death row. This trial was all over the news when it happened. I guess there's a small chance that he could have been framed. But I can tell you this, though. There's a lot more to this story than meets the eye. I already know this. There has to be. Because there's just too much to this case. Now, in 1992, I lived in the Czech Chile apartments on Foothill Boulevard in San Luis Obispo. It was my first year out of the dorms from Cal Poly. So that was right across the street from the shack. And I remember this place. It was owned by Lacey and Scott Peterson in San Luis Obispo. And I think they opened it. I don't think it was open when I was at Czech Chalet, but I was across the street. I think they opened it like the following year. I think they graduated in 92, or one of them graduated then. But I had been in this shack a few times because I stayed around the area. I lived in the area and I worked in the area. And so I had been into this place a few times. And I remember a brunette woman working the kitchen in the back. And I wonder sometimes if that was Lacey Peterson. And it's crazy because this town, San Luis Obispo, has had many strange disappearances with these half-baked explanations as to how they happened and what appears to be possible like scapegoats, fall guys, patsies. So we'll continue to follow this case. I mean, there's a possibility if this guy gets a new trial, he could possibly walk. He could do time served and be walking on the street. Crazy times, you guys. Crazy, crazy times. Now let's get into this last story, and I saved the best for last. This is hilarious. You're probably going to want to take this with a grain of salt because I'm not sure anybody's ever been to the moon. But China's moon rover is saying they found a mysterious cube-shaped object. Now, this broke several days ago. I'm surprised none of the larger channels have really covered this yet. Have you guys heard of this being covered yet? It's the first time I saw it. I picked this up yesterday. I put it in today's show, but let's look at the symbolism behind this because there's got to be some symbolism behind it. Here it is right here. Here's the cube on the moon, they're saying. Let's zoom it up a little bit so you guys can see this. Is it really a cube? Well, let's look at some of the symbolism behind this claim. We're told that the diameter of the moon is 2,160 miles across, which just so happens to be exactly the cube root of the number 6, as you can see here. So we have a cube root of 6 and 216, the same numbers associated with the diameter of the moon. And we know that a 6-sided hexagon is basically a 3D cube. So this is a really good illustration of it. Here's the cube root of 216, 6 times 6 times 6, which of course is 666. But look at this. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So here's your hexagon cube. So we're supposed to believe that they now found a 3D cube on the moon? I don't know if I want to believe that. Now, here's the funny part. Let's read this story. For the past 2 years, China's U2, sounds like YouTube, 2 rover has been roaming across the von Karman crater on the far side of the moon, and on its journey spotted a mysterious cube-shaped object. According to Space.com, the Chinese National Space Administration keeps a log of each of the rover's lunar days, which is around 29 Earth days. On its 36th lunar day, the rover spotted a cube-shaped object on the horizon about 260 feet away. Wow. Officials called it a mystery house. Yeah, I would think so. We know what the mystery cube is. Now look at these numbers, okay? This is crazy. You've got the 36th lunar day, and the first discovery was made on December 5th, which is the 339th day of the year. And there's the prime factorization of the number 216. 339th day of the year. 9 times 3, of course, is 27. And there you have the numbers behind this story. So, interesting nonetheless. Let's see what else they come up with. Now, what is the point of this? Well, it's my belief that stories like this are part of a ritual to give legitimacy to we're going to call it the loon manding. The loon manding. And they're preparing for something. And make no mistake, the moon will play some kind of integral role in this deception. So what they need is the entire world on board with all of this. And they all need us believing that we can go to the moon. And that we've been there and we can go there. And so now it's China's turn. They got their little rover up there, so now all the Chinese people will, be convinced that they're on the moon. They'll be all proud and patriotic. We're on the moon, right? And my guess is that the moon will be the new NASA profit center. Just like Mars was a NASA profit center, they now have to switch gears and refocus everything back on the moon. Now, if you can convince the world that you're making regular trips to the moon without actually going there, think of the trillions of dollars you could fleece from all the peoples of the world in tax dollars. And think about also, what better place could you hide aliens? You know, what better place could they say that aliens are hiding behind than the dark side of the moon? Oh, you just can't see them because they have a base on the dark side of the moon. We found it. But they're coming. They're coming. This is why we need a defense force, a space force. You guys, we've seen this play out fictionally in the Transformers movies. I think there's actually one of the movies called Dark Side of the Moon. So they'll just have our Space Force up there, trillions of dollar budgets, patrolling the dark side of the moon to track down alien threats. Look, they've even got a Transformers tweet here. So these are all the memes. Of course, everyone's making fun of this. You know, they're doing montages and memes and collages. Here's a Star Wars one here. So thought I would share that with you, and that was the last story I had for you guys today. I think tomorrow we're going to do the Born Supremacy. That'll be a good show. I've already got the montage already set up for that. I pulled some clips in which a VVV wrist is used to basically create a super soldier in one of the Born films. So we'll take a look at that, and that ought to be interesting. And I'll tell you my thoughts on what that's about, because they talk about changing the person's genetic makeup, and then the V, we got to come up with a new word for that. The Russ V, we'll call it a Russ V because that's backwards. The Russ V was used as a carrier to affect the DNA. So let's go into the chat here for a little bit. All right. What are they doing with all the money? Well, that's a good question. What are they doing with all these tax dollars? Well, they're enriching themselves. Of course, they're creating jobs. So think about it. Think about all of the bureaucracy. It's no different than the military-industrial complex. It's no different than the pharmaceutical-industrial complex. If you can convince people that there's a legitimate need for tax dollars, it creates an elite job, doesn't it? So you got people on boards, you got thousands and maybe even 1 million people making millions of dollars a year, being paid huge amounts of money in these contracts and things like that. So that's the incentive to do something like this. It's the age-old concept of the conflict of interest, right? You create your own job with a lie. I mean, most people would probably do that because people are weak and they're greedy and they want money. So if they could make up something that they thought people needed, even if they knew it was a lie, they would continue to do it, wouldn't they? So that's where all this money's going. It's creating an elite class, people that work for NASA, people that, these generals and things, and all the military contractors that go into the military, the pharmaceutical boards, and the CEOs of the companies, they're all making tons of money. Billionaires, entire billionaire classes being created off of the lies that they create. And once they control the media and convince the public that all this stuff is real, then, and they'll throw the media a few bones. They'll enrich the media too, Rupert Murdoch. Then you have yourselves an alternate reality in which nothing almost at the top is real, because it's all been created and fabricated to fleece all of us. They need us because we trickle in the funds and enrich all of them. Now, the Bible talks about all this. Jesus was very upset at the Pharisees who lied to the people to enrich themselves. This is not an anti-biblical concept. God says several times in the Bible that the devil rules this world. All you got to do is type in Bible, devil rules this world. And there's many, many sites that list dozens of scriptures that allude to the fact that the devil is in power of this world until Jesus' kingdom comes back and rules. So how do you get out of that? Well, you don't accept the lies. You try to operate outside of the world. You're in the world, but not part of it, which is what the Bible says we're supposed to be. You don't go rah, 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 this is my country, and I love this, and I want to be rich, and I want to follow the formula that the world has. That's not being in the world and trying not to be part of it. That's buying the world hook, line, and sinker. You don't subscribe to their ideology. The only ideology you should be subscribing to is Jesus Christ. So that's my assessment of what the Bible is trying to say. All right. Anyway, let's go into the chat. You guys have any questions for me this morning? Anything you guys want to discuss? Revelation 18:23. Thanks, Zareth, the alchemist. Look, if we were supposed to buy all into this world, then why, when Jesus was offered the world and rulership of it and all the kingdoms of the world in the high place that the devil brought him up to when he was tempted, why did he refuse that? Because we're supposed to refuse it too. That's not supposed to be our prerogative in this life, to attain all the things that we see around us. That's exactly opposite to what Christ taught. All of his disciples sold everything. They turned their backs on the world. And all they did was speak against the system, against the way things worked. And they talked about Christ's coming kingdom and the gospel, of course. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be all bought into this world, checking your stocks every day, gold and silver. Yeah, we're going to be part of this world. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. It's not what we're supposed to be doing. Thanks to the new channel member. I saw another question here. Let's scroll this up here. Let's see here. Right before. Thanks, Shay. Are you worried about earthquakes? Well, the Bible says there will be earthquakes all over and all over the world. So I try not to worry too much about that stuff. There was a question here. Let me go up here. Oh, can you share a bit of that? Someone says something about yesterday. Oh, 7 Grain says, healing from your video yesterday. Can you share a little bit about that? Yeah, okay, so that's a really good question, actually. I think I have it pulled up here. Thanks, 7 Grains, we can kind of end the show on this note. Helium is mined with methane. Methane is the gas of death. Now, here's an article on it. This is from Peak Scientific. And it talks about how methane extraction comes along with helium extraction. So you can almost look at helium as a gas of death. Now, when a body begins to decompose, you don't get helium from that, but they're saying that it's a decay side effect of elements such as uranium and thorium, but it gets caught in these pockets with the methane. So why would science name the helium gas after Helios, the god, who existed long before helium gas was named? Probably because it's the gas of death. It floats, they're saying it floats all the way up into space, whatever definition you think that applies to. And so Helios is also related to Apollo and Apollyon. If you look up Helios, you'll see that they say it's a derivative of Apollo or Apollyon. So this is the god that they worship. Now, America has the hugest helium reserves in the world, right beneath our feet. I think most of it's in Arizona. And so that makes us the crown serpent country, doesn't it? Makes us the Helios country. Now, Helios is Sol Invictus, which is the Statue of Liberty as well. That's probably why they chose the Statue of Liberty as the symbol of quote-unquote freedom, because they knew there was helium gas under our feet. Now, any one of these things doesn't make the case for everything I'm saying. When you look at all of it in sum total, the coincidence that we have the largest helium reserves in the world underneath our feet, basically symbolizing that a lot of sacrifice and death happened beneath our feet, that if you want, you could connect that to the flood and all the sin and all of the death that happened as a result of sin. Well, a lot of that happened right under the soil that we're standing on here in America. So that's a little more on helium. Now, where you get into some of the esoterics of this is with Pennywise the clown. What do you think he meant when he said, "You'll float too"? He was talking about gases of death. That's what he was talking about. And he would float on the balloons of his victims. Where did Pennywise live? Under the sewers. That's where all the gases are. Where do you think sewage is? Methane gas is produced from all the sewage running under the streets, causing things to float. Do you see how this, even the writers of these stories like Stephen King, there's no way he could have known all this. Like this has to be happening on a supernatural level. There's too many synchronicities that dovetail in with the god of this world, which is the crowned serpent. Now, I have a new channel that I profiled on this main channel. You go into the other channels section on my main page here. You'll see that channel. I can't remember the name of it, but he put together a really good decode on the crowned serpent, and he linked it in with the crown chakra, because that's what the serpent is. Once you reach the top, it's crowned, and the serpent's beneath it. So that is what's really going on here. Okay. And somehow the crowned serpent is going to alter us as well, or at least those who worship the serpent. We will be altered, or they'll try to alter us through whatever it is that they're doing. We've talked a lot about our theories as to what they're trying to do to the human genome. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well when we look at one of the Bourne films. So that was a great question. Thanks, 7 Greens. All right, back in the chat. Soylent Green, imagine the gas. Yes. Now, there's one more aspect to this, and that is that what was the curse of the serpent? Well, God told the serpent, "You will eat dust, you will lick dust the days of your life." What do you think he meant? Well, when things die, they decompose, they go into the ground, and it's recycled. So when you die, you're buried, and a tree grows from you. Bird eats the tree. The bird poos back in the ground. Grass grows, and the cycle continues. That is the licking of the dust. That is the recycling. Now, why would God attribute that to the serpent? Well, because the serpent rules this world, and to all sin, it's all attributed to him. He is the scapegoat. So now you understand the importance of the decay and decomposition, and why that, and how that plays into methane and helium. Now, this doesn't mean you need to stop buying helium balloons for a birthday party. This is all spiritual symbolism and significance. Okay. So, just a little bit behind it now. Thanks, Fatima, for that. Wicker Man. We had done several decodes on the Wicker Man, and those decodes were very interesting. The Burning Wicker Man. Now, one of those films, I believe, came out in 1973, the year the Center of Trade opened. And when I think we did a decode where we looked at the Wicker Man, and the legs were square like the buildings. And we all know what happened on that day. Went up in fire and with people inside, which is exactly what happened in the Wicker Man films. well, the original Wicker Man, they put a bunch of people inside and lit it on fire. So these were like ritual movies. They knew what they were planning to do, and they did these ritual movies to basically call that out. Now there's another, there's actually a record by, I don't want to say Megadeth, I can't remember this, but it's called The Wicker Man, and on the cover of that, you see the Wicker Man on fire. Well, I flipped that upside down, and you could see that the buildings on fire in that one as well. But yeah, we did several films on the Wicker Man. We decoded the old 1973 version, and we also decoded the Nicolas Cage version of that. So, and then there was a Burning Man aspect to that as well. The Burning Man linked into that. Iron Maiden, thanks, Jinrai Minor. Absolutely, it was an Iron Maiden. Let's look that up. Let me show that to you. Just real quick. All right. So here's the Iron Maiden Wicker Man. Okay. And here on the cover here, you can almost make out like a building. See that there? Now there was something else to this. I want to say it was when it released. Let's take a look. The Wicker Man. Okay, it was in 2000. It was the year before Blind 11. There it is right there. The Wicker Man. So there's a whole lot more to that. I wonder if I still have those decodes. I can actually go back and see if I can find those decodes. Maybe put together like some kind of a montage for you guys with all the decodes. So you could just watch it once, you know. But interesting nonetheless. All right. Yes, it links into the Burning Man Festival. And there's actually an ancient cult. And that was where this whole Burning Man thing originated from. An ancient cult of sacrifice. All right. Okay, you guys, I'm going to pop off of here. I love each and every one of you. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.